Let's go to our next story. You know, an old soldier is an experienced and practiced person. And so for 86-year-old retired General Theophilus Yakubu Danjuma, the one you know fondly as TY, there's quite nothing like facing reality, even when circumstances are unpleasant and difficult. So speaking at Takum, his hometown, the proud son of the soil said pointedly, let me quote him, "I told you before to rise and defend yourselves, and I'm saying it again, this time with even more urgency," end of quote. The message is, get weapons like your killers and defend yourselves. He added, remember they are human too. You have a right to stand your ground. Makes you wonder if this is not a call to arms. Kayode.
T.Y. Danjuma, yes, it's two-pronged. Now, this call looks very, very appealing, acceptable to a good number of people who are aggrieved. But we must think about the consequence. We must think about the bigger picture. When we arm these weapons, how do we retrieve them when there's no more war?
When you release the weapons.
When we give them these weapons. So I believe strongly that as much as what he's saying, in my view, is wrong, but I believe in modifying it. And that's one thing that Wally was talking about. These weapons, in the name of vigilante, registered vigilante, where we can look at how these weapons are used, because there must be a level of monitoring. Trust me, it will turn to street versus street. It will turn to one household against household. When these weapons, when we probably have chased out the enemies, then brothers will start killing brothers. In the first place, brothers are supposed to be brothers. We're supposed to even see ourselves as brothers. But since the message is not sinking in at this current time, probably that's another job for NOA to do. Because I don't know why someone would believe that this is not my brother, this is not my sister, because that's another funny thing.
You cherry pick.
Yeah, exactly. Because when I hear those things, I do not just see tribalism, I see a whole lot of retrogression. Because if I need something from Wale, and Wale is from Tiv or is from Hausa, and is the one that will benefit me, he is my brother at that time. So that orientation is missing. However, for T.Y. Danjuma, I do not subscribe to that call. And unfortunately, he's saying it again, and nobody is telling him, stop it. But however, we on this side, we have a conscience to say, there is a grave consequence to his call, and we must say no to call for arms. After all,
Wale, we remember the tragedy of war is that it uses man's best to do man's worst. And Taraba has seen the worst. What more should Taraba see?
Well, I think when people make statements, we should look at it scientifically. You know, not just on its face value. You know, who is this person making this statement? In the first instance,
rationalize the message.
General Danjuma is not just an ordinary person. He has been on the stage since 1960s. In 1963, he was part of the UN peacekeeping force. He was a commander of 3rd Battalion in Ibadan and took part in the 1966 coup. He was also commander of 1st Battalion.
He was the General Iran's military assistant.
He was Minister of Defense. To IBB's testimonial, T.Y. Danjuma was president, you know.
He was Minister of Defense. He was also Chief of Army Staff. He's not a frivolous person. He's also a successful businessman who has been, he resigned in the army in 1979, but he has been very active on the political stage of Nigeria since the 1960s, for more than 60 years of broken record. So if this man can be pushed to this extent to make this kind of statement, it's a big challenge for us. What do we do? So I believe that statement, legally, you can't ask people to go and carry arms. But why is he making such a statement?
That's the modification.
People are frustrated by the killings of women, by the killings of children, by the raping of their wives.
Senselessly.
The law of this country says you cannot just bear arms, illicit arms. But the law of nature gives you the right to self-preservation when you are threatened.
It is the first law of nature.
Even when you see an animal, if you want to kill an animal, the first thing is that the animal tends to protect, not to talk of human beings. So when people are being killed senselessly, and you could see that video, people were excited, young boys, that look, oh yes, this is what we really want to do. And either whether he says it or not, it's already happening. People are already taking laws into their hand because they can't stand it any longer. So I think it's posing a challenge to the Nigerian government that something has to be done before it is too late. And I think we should toe the path of the DG of DSS, who has said that, look, let communities be armed in a regulated manner.
Yeah.
You train them psychologically.
That's what I mean by the modification.
Sure.
So that it's not taken out of context. People will say,
yes. Because after the revolution in South Africa, a lot of ANC people that were armed, there was increase in crime.
Oh, yeah.
In Liberia, the same thing.
Until today.
So there must be regulation. There must be, the government must be involved to make sure that arms does not fall into people that will use it to settle personal scores.
Yeah.
But as for the right of people to defend themselves, nobody, no government can take that right away. When you are under consistent persecution and killings, I'm telling you that you have no other option than to look for a way to protect yourself. So I think the federal government should take this as a challenge. He didn't mention state police, and I would have expected him to mention state police. It's one of the frontal ways that we can confront this problem.
Simple.
Yeah.
You know, so that the communities can take control of the process of defending their, territories from invaders.
My people, and I'm sure Kayode, your people, Wale, your people would say,
our people.
Okay, our people will say, to destroy a tree, get the taproot.
Sure.
So we are talking about getting to the root of the matter.
Yeah.
I'm sure leaders of thought and conscience know the root of the matter. Is it difficult to go there?
You see, my worry, I do, and I think my worry, I don't know who is going to resolve it. If we check the trajectory, 2 years, 1 year to the election, this thing is always in that escalation. It will be difficult for anyone to convince me, I wish to be convinced, that this thing has no political coloration.
Okay.
Because I do not understand, why, who armed these people? Who bought these weapons for these people? These weapons must have gone through the customs, must have gone through our sea borders, our land borders, and probably policemen are selling these things. All kinds of permutations. They have it in large arms. So even the Boko Haram and everything. So there is no how that there are not big names behind this thing. And that is where we need to drag this issue. If you don't have the lever, or there is something I don't understand, because I'm not yet in government, I've never been in government.
Okay.
Maybe there's something we cannot do.
Are you warming up?
No, because, every time we keep crying, why can't you name and shame? So if you cannot do that, can you call these people to a meeting and tell them that let this be the last time?
I was going to draw your attention to the statement credited to the first German Chancellor, Otto von Bismarck. He said, politics is not an exact science, but sociologists would remind you that politics is a behavioral science. So if it is politics, then it must be something not in my books. What's the essence of politics? If not to work for the interest of the people, So what else? What does one gain by killing his own people?
Discrediting of government, making the government look, they can't buy irrelevant, and therefore this government has to go. And that's how I see.
Sense of instability, insecurity, to make the people in power unpopular, to make the country ungovernable, and that in itself is anarchy. Because at the end of the day, violence is an ill wind that blows no one any good. Even you that are funding violence, at one point or the other, you might be consumed.
It will consume you.
So democracy is always the best option for us to explore, even for those who are not happy that they are not in power. Violence will never be the best option for us.
General T.Y., with regards to what you already know, we know that many people will seek advice only after their minds are made up. So I'm not saying you are making up the minds for Tarabans.
Yeah.
You have intervened, but Tarabans, the next thing is to rationalize the message of the retired general.
Danjuma.
Yeah, and care must be taken so we don't call people to arms. All right, we must go on a break now. Please stay with us. We will be back very shortly with more on Journalist Hangout on a Sunday.